what do you see as the key parts of a data marketplace?
So I think that what we're seeing right now in the data marketplace space is actually sort of a V1 where we're still all figuring out exactly what a marketplace will look like and if it will even be called a marketplace by the time it's all done. What I would like to see more of are opportunities for the people who get data, whether they're purchasing it or just downloading it, to be able to actually have a conversation about the data and keep that conversation going as sort of an engagement loop around the data sets, because I think that ultimately people form communities of interest around these things, and that's really where the inspiration for what to do with the data set comes from.
Okay. So who do you see as the customers for these data sets? Are they businesses, academics, individuals?
I think it's ultimately all of those things. I think that we're really excited about academic uses and hackers doing mashups, and that's all great. I think that we all can agree that we need to sort of blow out the walls and expand far beyond sort of what we're doing here at Strata, which is an amazing experience. But I really need to see librarians and bus drivers and parents involved in these conversations. And I think that what I'm trying to do at BuzzData is create an environment that ultimately people who are less technical or just want to, they have an opinion or they have a problem, I would like them to be able to be just as passionately engaged in the conversation around data as people who are able to sort of download a data set and start doing statistical models.
Sure.
So I think that we as geeks really need to challenge ourselves to not just create solutions, but identify real problems and help the people who have those problems actually get them solved, instead of trying to hope that the things that we're solving are actually real problems.
So, kind of dovetailing with that a little bit, solving those problems, does that tie into specific data products? I mean, do you see it as data as a service as a potential product, or the bus driver, for example? What sort of interaction do you anticipate there?
Well, I mean, ultimately, really what this is about is a disruption of a sort of a legacy data model. I mean, there really hasn't been any disruption in the way data is distributed and consumed since Bloomberg came into existence. So, I mean, while those pioneers deserve credit, I think that social media and the internet in general sort of give a much wider variety of people to the opportunity to become involved in these conversations. So in terms of productization, I'm actually less stressed out about even defining what the data products of the future will look like. In the talk that Pete Soderling and I gave yesterday, we broke down how some of the traditional models of consumption, like everything from FTP to custom feeds and mailing CDs out, are being replaced by these extremely flexible no more buffet, but I would like this and this and this, and I'd like to pay extra to have access to these specific indicators or fields. I think that a data provider that has been a big deal in the past has the opportunity to continue to be a big deal in the future, but they do need to sort of pull their head out of the sand and realize that there is change afoot and that people are going to start demanding a workflow around this data. And I believe that the conversation that inspires people and humanizes data, if a journalist comes along and wants to write a story about it, even if data is technically free and can be downloaded from the UN or something, the ability to have an authority model where you can be assured that the data you're accessing is actually timely, accurate, complete, licensed properly, it's in the right format, or that you can even find it in the first place. I consider these things all to be really important value adds that aren't really being addressed by the current players in the space.
So the last question I have for you, when do you think that we'll get to that point where discovery, access, and trust are all part of the equation on the consumer level?
Well, selfishly, we are launching BuzzData soon, so I'm hoping that will be a big part of the answer to that. But I think that the sort of rise of media journalism and embedding data sets has brought that sort of that hopeful goal of the average, when you go to your barber, and you might actually be able to talk about, how, if there's a salary scandal or a spending scandal, you can actually have a conversation. You might not necessarily be nerding out with your barber about like rows and columns of data, but that conversation might be informed on a higher sort of socially responsible level. A lot of conversations in the past, in the abstract, have probably been based a lot on conjecture. And so I guess if I was being realistic about sort of the long-term ambitions for this, that maybe if we see society start to move towards conversational models where people call each other on their statements that they're making, and it's sort of how iPhones made it possible that if people are arguing over dinner to pull at IMDb, yes, Tom Hanks was in The Burbs, it says right here, that really changed conversation a lot. And so I actually think that the presence of data is sort of a consumable force in our lives that might be a bit more casual than we associate it with. That will actually really dramatically change the way that people sort of state facts and sort of assert themselves casually. So I'm really excited for what that means in a sort of postmodern sense, I guess.
Sure, right.
So yeah, I think it's pretty awesome stuff.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.